The other day, I was on the phone with a friend of mine by the name of JP, and he had asked me, when are you going to share our testimony on YouTube, Michael? And I laughed, because I eventually believe I'll get to you, JP. But he did ask me why I haven't spoken about a young man that spent 11 months living with us. And probably because he was the one that didn't make it. And that doesn't sit well with me. But the reality is that you and I need to know the reality of drug addiction and alcoholism, and how really powerful that devil can be left unattended. So here's my short testimony of Jay Flamm, a young boy who helped change my life, and then meeting him years later would again transform my life. Not for the worse, but for the better. So here goes. I met Jay Flamm in 1993 with his father, Stuart and Bonnie Flamm. Stuart was going to train with me. He was a friend of Jeffrey Verdon, and Stuart and I didn't hit it off right away very well. Matter of fact, I actually wanted to smack him because he disrespected me in my own gym. Anyway, Stuart calls me the next day and asks me, how does he sign up to work out with me? I thought to myself, oh my goodness, here we go. You see, his big problem was nobody ever spoke to him the way I did, but his mother. He said, nobody's ever spoken to me the way you did, Michael, except my mother. How do I sign up, and where do I sign up to train with you? Stuart and I would embark on a 3-year training and workout and friendship and brotherhood. You know, this testimony isn't in regards to Stuart, and it's not to diminish him or to knock him down, but rather I'd love to lift him up if I could. You know, I like Stuart. I have a heart for Stuart. I believe that Stuart did the best with what he had at the times. Do I think he fell short with raising his son? A little bit. Have I fallen short with my boys? At times, for sure. So I'm no perfect human being. But the reality is I fell in love with little Jay Flamm. And I started spending time with him when Jay was 8 years old. His wife, Bonnie, had asked me to start teaching him how to ride a bike because Stuart was too busy working and never took the time to teach Jay how to ride a bike. And at this time, Stuart and Bonnie had been separated and were working on a divorce. So I would spend time with Jay a couple days a week at his house. It turned out that Jay didn't really want to learn how to ride a bike. He wanted to spend time with somebody. He wanted a friend. He wanted a father figure. He wanted somebody to pay attention to him, because the nanny and the housekeeper could only do so much. So I would spend time with Jay in the pool playing Marco Polo. I'd go to the park with him and teach him how to ride a skateboard. I'd throw the football or frisbee with him. And eventually we got to the bicycle. But I'll never ever forget my last day with Jay Flamm as an 8-year-old kid. On this particular day, it was a Friday, and I purchased an 8-ball of cocaine on a Wednesday, hoping I can hold it and keep it in my safe with my half a pound of weed that I needed. And it would last me until Sunday. But the reality is I couldn't stop thinking about it Wednesday night, Thursday, and then Friday morning. And so I had to start doing it on Friday morning. I was scheduled to see Jay around the noon hour, and it's going to be the first time that I was going to experience and spend time with Jay loaded. And I'll tell you, I'm not the same person once I put something in me. You know, that's the great illusion of that the devil or the disease puts on us, that we think we're going to be able to manage it. I've never managed cocaine in my life, ever. And I don't plan on trying to do it again. I lost. That thing kicked, that drug, that thing, that whatever, it kicked my butt. It almost killed me. So anyways, getting back to that particular day, Jay and his nanny were outside waiting for me to get there because Jay was going to inform me that his mother couldn't afford my services anymore. And so hence it was going to be the last day that I was going to spend with Jay. Boy, I have to tell you, those were words I did not want to hear. Matter of fact, I was in an extremely dark place when he told me that, because there was no way that I wanted to spend my last day spending time with Jay loaded. But there was nothing I can do because I had already put that first line in my nose. And by the time I saw Jay, I had probably a half a gram of cocaine already in my nose and in me. So I was scheduled to spend an hour with Jay. I was probably there no more than 15 minutes. And half that time I was in the bathroom because I was too ashamed of what I was feeling. And plus I needed to get out of there to go do some more coke. So anyways, my last day spending time with Jay was loaded, and I failed Jay Flamm big time. Big time. So I remember driving home and just feeling feeling less than. I stopped twice to do more cocaine. By the time I got home, I continued doing cocaine. And my story is this, that I did cocaine until Sunday morning, until I forced my wife to go to the dealer with me while she was 4.5 months pregnant to get 1 more gram of cocaine. Have you ever needed just 1 more? I just needed that 1 more. So, let's fast forward. I've been now in the rooms of recovery and walking in recovery for 12 years. And I was taking my 12th birthday in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. It was a very small meeting. And on this particular day, I thought, I'm going to share my story. I'm going to get into this because there's a handful of people here. And I had mentioned Jay Flamm. And after I was done sharing, a girl walks up to me and asks me if this person is the Jay Flamm that I'm referring to. And I was looking now at a young man that looked horrific, horrible. You can tell this young man wasn't full of the light, let's just say. And she informed me that this Jay Flamm, I believe you're talking about, it's the same Jay Flamm, is in a detox or treatment center somewhere. And he's an extremely bad heroin addict. And oh my goodness, was my world rocked. So I knew on the way home from the meeting that I had to do something. I had to reach out to my little friend. I had to make my amends. I wasn't going to let this just slip by. So eventually I got a hold of his father, Stuart. And Stuart had confided to me that yes, his son is a bad drug addict and he's in Lake Arrowhead or Big Bear, somewhere up there at some facility, on a lockdown facility. And I said, is there any way I can get his number? Please, Stuart. And I had shared with Stuart what I've been doing for the last 12 years. Maybe, just maybe, Michael Mennick, was going to be the tool that can help Jay Flamm. I could make my amends. I can make a wrong right. Well, believe it or not, I got a hold of Jay Flamm that evening, and I was speaking with a man that I have never met, except when he was a boy. So let's do the math. Jay was 8 years old when I stopped seeing him, and now it's 12 years later. So Jay's 20 years old, and he's a bad, hardcore heroin addict. I had asked his father, is there any way that your son, once he gets out of treatment in about 3 weeks, because it was 3 weeks, could come live with my family and I? I will lay down my life for this boy, this young man that I really desperately wanted to see overcome his addiction. Stewart agreed. Jay Flamm and I would be introduced to each other 3 weeks later after we spoke on the phone several times while he was in a lockdown facility. I have to tell you, I was unprepared for what Jay, how riddled he was with strongholds and curses and the principalities of darkness that heroin and drugs can do to a soul. I embarked on a journey with Jay for the next 11 months that took me to places I never ever thought I would go. Jay Flamm lived with my family and I for 11 months, and in those 11 months, he stayed clean for about 6, maybe 7 months. And then he started getting loaded in the house. He started stealing from me, from my wallet first. And eventually he found my wife's wedding ring. And the only possession my wife had of her stepmother Elsie, her wedding ring. He stole that. And the bottom line is, I spent the next several years after Jay left our house loaded, going to treatment centers and detoxes, alleyways and parks, restaurants and other locations, trying to help save this young man's life. I can't even tell you the depth of time I invested into Jay Flamm. But the reality is that Michael doesn't save. Michael just simply carries a message of hope. And God, Jesus saves. Man doesn't save, only Jesus does. And I did everything within my capabilities of loving this young man to life, but he simply wouldn't surrender to the drug. And Jay Flamm and I spent our last day together while he was on life support in Santa Ana a couple years ago. I was thankful and grateful to be able to spend time with Jay, but I really, deep down inside, had a hard time with knowing that he perished. That some addicts and alcoholics have to die or do die. And I don't know why I'm still here speaking to you today, but God does, because he's not done with me. And if I'm speaking to you in your heart today, and you're loaded, or you're still teetering with the thought of just one more, my suggestion to you is to believe that you're going to come back for a relapse is insanity. For me to use is to die. For me to drink is to die. And if it's not a physical death, it's a spiritual death. And today I'm not willing to embark on that. Today I'm rejoicing at the fact that God has set me free from alcoholism and drug addiction. Am I cured? I believe so, because I have no desire to drink or use. The 12 traditional program doesn't think I'm cured because it's a daily reprieve. I believe that's true too. But I have no desire to do cocaine. Matter of fact, the thought about doing it makes me want to throw up and puke. So, today, I rarely talk to Stuart Flamm. I don't talk to Bonnie Flamm anymore. Stuart and Bonnie laid to rest their son in Corona del Mar a couple years ago. And sadly, one more has fallen to the disease of addiction. One more. And it breaks my heart every time I think about it. But the reality is that young man, Jay Flamm, helped save my life. Not only that, but he gave me purpose. So, this is for you and I to do whatever we want with this testimony. But the reality is I miss my little friend Jay Flamm. And I pray a blessing over his father, Stuart, and his mother, Bonnie. I have nothing against them, and I wish them nothing but the best moving forward. May God bless you, and don't use no matter what. Thanks for hearing me and allowing me to share this with you.